Okay, so this is Lespedeza bicolor, which is in the Fabaceae family. It's also called Lespedeza, bicolor, Lespedeza, and bush clover. The common name bush clover comes from the fact that, like a lot of things in Fabaceae, it's going to have a compound leaf, and in this case it's a trifoliate leaf. So it's got 3 leaflets, and they are typically very rounded. The top is not going to be acute, and they're very thin leaves. You can't really see the venation in them, especially these guys. The bright green is younger growth, and then they will mature out into this nice dark green where you can see the venation a little bit better. But they've got a rounded base and a rounded apex, so they are just kind of overall elliptical to ovate to sometimes obovate. You see this guy's kind of obovate. And so while this is usually one of our smaller plants we learn, you can see this one is really big and shows really the full potential of this plant, or it's called bush clover because this is like a hedge. This is the whole thing here. And it will get woody. You can see the stems down here are nice and woody with a nice smooth bark. But the twigs are going to stay green for a long time after they grow. And only after probably a couple years they're going to start turning a nice brown color, and that's going to come through as ridges in the bark that sneak through the dark green. As for the growth form of this guy, it's going to be shrubby, it's going to be multi-stemmed. It's probably not going to exceed probably 2 or 3 meters at absolute most. This one's really, really huge. Typically they're about waist level. Their branches are really long and almost have a weeping look on them. You can see how they arch. And the epithet bicolor comes from the flowers, so it's got 2 colored flowers. So on every plant you will have pink flowers and purple flowers. And those are the same shape as your characteristic pea flowers, so you'll see the same shaped flower on kudzu and other Fabaceae. And if you look really closely on redbud, it will have the same shaped flower. And that's just that typical pea flower. It does not have a pod like you would think of, like we see on our other Fabaceae. See if I can find one. There we go. So here are our pods right here. So they've only got 1 seed per pod. Grab one off. So 1 seed per pod. They're pretty small. They're light green. They have a peduncle, so they are born on a little stalk. Looks like the style is persisting on them. And they are a little orbicular, so a little circle. And they're just slightly pubescent. This was planted originally, it's native to China and Japan. It was planted for wildlife food plots, for white-tailed deer because it's high in crude protein, and for bobwhite, the northern bobwhite, otherwise known as regular quail in this area. The seeds are eaten by bobwhite. Deer do browse it. It is mildly invasive due to that planting, and other songbirds won't eat it. And it's also promoted by birding, so it enjoys disturbed areas. Really what you're looking for is this kind of weepy form where the branches hang down. The rounded trifoliate leaves. There are a lot of other things in this family in the area like desmodiums that will look similar, but they're not as elliptical. So not as orbicular, fat in the middle. And then those little tiny pink and purple flowers.